Its very name pops up a delicious range of to-go burgers, fries, and combos. The globe's fast food staple. But do not let your eyes fool you. Well, yes, McDonald's does indeed flip burgers and sell fries across the globe, but that's not how it became the business tycoon it is today. What if we tell you that McDonald's is actually a real estate company first and makes burgers second? Yes, you heard it absolutely right. A meager 1.4% cut on a 15-cent hamburger doesn't really make a company with a net worth of $36.53 billion and a market capital as high as $191.36 billion. Scratching heads? Don't you worry. Get yourself a seat and order in a Big Mac as we take you through the interesting ride where we will tell you how exactly McDonald's became a real estate company. Together, we will understand how a single outlet in the suburbs of the States made it to the pinnacle of the food industry, a household name, and a real estate king. Welcome to Wealthy Mindset, where we explore unique and breathtaking angles from the world of money, economics, personal finance, and investing. But before we get started, do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to never miss another video. Even after having created 228 McDonald's across America, only within 5 years of its purchase from the Mac brothers, Ray Kroc wasn't really making a lot of money. And then one fine day, the tables turned. The 2016 film, based on McDonald's, explains the entire dynamic very succinctly when one smart financial advisor comes up to Ray Kroc, the owner of McDonald's, and says, "Mr. Kroc, you don't quite understand the real business you are in. You are not in the business of selling burgers. You will have to realize that you can't build an empire off a 1.4% cut on a 15-cent burger. You build it by owning the land on which that burger is cooked." That's where it all started, and Mr. Kroc realized that money actually lies in two things. 1, the land, and 2, the control. But exactly how did it manage to open around 40,000 restaurants worldwide, holding the title of the world's largest restaurant company by entering into real estate? How exactly does it hold $41 billion of land, making it the 7th largest real estate company in the world? Let's understand how it worked before and how it works now. Initially, when Ray offered the Mac brothers 20 franchises and 8 independent restaurants the idea of expansion, they seemed to be skeptical. But Ray convinced them as he undertook the responsibility of the expansionist model and struck a deal. The regular model was such that if franchises would pay a royalty fee to use McDonald's brand name, a total of 1.9% of the profits made would go up to the McDonald's brothers, and Ray split up to 0.5% and 1.4% respectively. While this model wasn't really doomed, the McDonald's did not contain expensive luxury cuisine, which could generate huge amounts of revenue. A simplified menu included only limited items such as hamburgers, potato chips, French fries, drinks, and pie. These delicious hamburgers were sold at a meager cost of about 15 cents. Again, if you think about it, not a great source of huge amounts of revenue. Ray Kroc's business was expanding, but his small margins were holding the profits back. It was Harry J. Sonnenborn who told him that the real money lies in the franchise's land, and thus came up with the Sonnenborn Model. This model was structured such that McDonald's would buy the land on which the franchises would be mandated to establish and run the outlets. The interest rates would be fixed for a long term and would be leased to the franchise owners at a markup value. This gave Ray 2 very important advantages. Firstly, of course, all of the franchises would have to pay McDonald's the rent fee on which these stores would be built, that too for long-term interest rates. This would come over and above the royalty already being paid on the profits generated by the outlet. Huge amounts of money and profits would be produced, thus fueling the expansionist policy further, which shall in turn generate more lease contracts, more rents, and more profits, creating a beautiful cycle of profits. The result? McDonald's established 68 outlets only within a year, all owned by them and leased to the franchises. Out of the 40,000 locations, 7% are owned and operated directly by its corporation, and the rest are leased out to franchise owners. So much so that during the 2008 recession, McDonald's did not fall prey owing to the real estate business they had built up. The difference in profit margins is explicitly visible if we compare the franchise-operated outlets and the company-operated outlets. McDonald's earns approximately 82% of their franchise-generated revenue against a meager 16% of their company-operating outlet revenues, mainly because it's easier to just sit back and collect rent plus royalty. Essentially, rent is the bigger part of all profits. Secondly, control. None of the franchises would be allowed to set up outlets on land not bought by McDonald's, and their brand name could only be used if they abided by the terms of the lease contract. No compromises in the food quality were tolerated, and the original taste was maintained, failing which leases would be canceled directly. On average, franchises have to spend around $1.5 million to $2.5 million to establish and initiate an outlet, out of which a one-time franchise fee of $45,000 and a 3-month base rent of $229,000 is collected by McDonald's itself. And the numbers are strong, as 93% of all McD outlets are franchised. Imagine the money. Just imagine. Out of $10.7 billion revenue from franchise-operated outlets, profit was a whopping $8.5 billion, and the rent alone stood at approx $7 billion. Very clearly, McDonald's makes up almost the entirety of its profit from rent collected from its franchises, which is far greater than the royalties on burgers. While the burgers serve to attract customers for the franchises, over and above, it also buys the land and stores at almost all locations, expanding the asset portfolio. It's not the burgers making the bills, it's the land. And this is why McDonald's is a real estate company which happens to sell burgers. Ain't you surprised by this amazingly integrated model owned by McDonald's? What are your views on the Sonnenborn model that literally made this giant? Let us know in the comment section below. Slap that like button if you loved what we told you today. Subscribe and hit the bell icon below to never miss another Wealthy Mindset video, especially if you're interested in unexplored topics and interesting stories just like this one. We hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.